don't know if you saw, but I sort of launched this 22 ideas for District 22, and I brought a copy for you.
Okay.
And a lot of that is a combination of some big picture issues, but how they apply in the district, as well as some very specific local issues. And it's because one of the things I try to get across is that being green is about our public health, our finances, about jobs, and about our quality of life. So clean, green streets are very important. People asking about litter all the time. It's a hot topic in the district. But they're also really curious about how to make their homes more energy efficient, to lower their utility bills. They're interested in solar and wind energy and clean energy. It's a big deal in our district because we have all the power plants. So a lot of these green issues are ones that people care about. And I know this because of my work as a consultant with Queens Library. But I'm also really active with a range of transportation groups like Transportation Alternatives and the Riders Alliance. And I'm someone who takes the bus every day. I take it between the libraries, I take it to get to and from most of my various appointments in the district. So bus service, it has to be more frequent. We have problems with the Q103 along the waterfront. I mean, they just increased service, but there's still nothing at night or on the weekend at the same time that the city is continuing to develop the waterfront, which is very important. I live down by the water because I myself love to walk along the East River. I like to kayak there. I think it's important for us. I always say, like, we're an island people. You know, we don't think of ourselves that way, but in fact we are. So, like, I swim at Astoria Pool, and they offer free swim classes for kids, and I think how important that is because we're surrounded by water. It's people need to know how to swim. But anyway, so the 22 ideas are this range of issues from a dog run, because there are more and more dog owners, to increase bus service, to a district-wide municipal food waste composting program, not just something that's going to be in single-family homes or high-density high-rises, but something that everyone can participate in. I was really active and very supportive of the idea of a Newtown Pedestrian Plaza. That's that intersection of 30th Avenue, Newtown, and 33rd. That last year was defeated. I was very disappointed in that vote because I think that it's a very dangerous intersection for pedestrians and a very confusing intersection, and that also we don't have a lot of green space away from the waterfront. So the district goes from the East River all the way out to the 80s, and other than St. Michael's Cemetery, which is not exactly the type of green space that I'm talking about. It's very green, it's just not the type of green space I'm talking about. There's really not that much away from the waterfront, so I think we need to take a look at how we envision our built environment and provide green space where we can. So it's important to continue to provide these great amenities at Astoria Park, but there's other opportunities to do that. And so the link there with things like public health is that asthma is a massive problem, I mean, all over the city, but in our district we do have the power plants, we have all the trucks that go through, we have the 2 bridges, and so anything you can do like tree planting and creating more green space is going to help your outdoor air quality, and then the energy efficiency measures, the simple basic weatherization measures are going to help your indoor air quality. People don't think about indoor air quality that much because they're always thinking about like smog, but we spend the bulk of our lives inside, and so we have an aging housing stock in New York City. It's by far our biggest sort of carbon producer, and so it's where we have an enormous opportunity to make people's living situation more comfortable and save an enormous amount on utility bills.
And I mean, other than obviously the green ideas and the green plans, I mean, what are some of the major issues in Astoria that you hope to? You did pick up on the bus service.
Right, exactly. So I'll say so clean green streets is something that the voters talk about all the time. Frequency of bus service, absolutely. I'm a big supporter of the idea of 7-day library service in Western Queens. You know, right now, if you want to use a library on a Sunday, you have to travel, a couple of buses all the way out to Jamaica, and that's a bit of a schlep, especially if you're trying to bring your kids. And so I would love to see at least one branch open on a Sunday, and I think that's something that, well, I know it's something that a lot of people support. Another big issue in the district right now is development. There are 2 proposed waterfront developments, Hallett's Point and Astoria Cove, both on what's called the Astoria Peninsula, kind of after you cross 21st Street. And that's going to bring in potentially 11,000 new residents in the next decade. And so making sure we have the right infrastructure through bus service, maybe ferry service. I know that's something the current council member is very interested in, and I love the water, so I do love ferries. But schools, supermarkets, clinics, pharmacies, banks. There's a lot of amenities. I live down there. I live, as I mentioned, on Main Avenue, sort of by 12th Street and Astoria Boulevard, and there's not even a laundromat all that near me, much less a supermarket. So a place for me to get healthy food.
So services
affordable.
to pretty much coincide with the amount of people that
Right.
would be coming in.
So what it is that the existing residents are incredibly underserved. So what we want to make sure is that the new services and new amenities that come in are affordable for the existing residents, as well as the new residents who 80% of whom are going to be paying market rate for luxury waterfront housing. There is a 80-20, there is a 20% affordable housing component. So we need to make sure that the supermarket that gets built is something that the average resident can afford. Because we've seen, even in Long Island City, that it didn't always happen. And that's a big problem when that area right now is already a food desert. So we just want to make sure that it's not like, oh yes, now there is local food, you just can't afford it. I mean, that would be even worse.
Something like it's just par and par with the people that will be living there.
Exactly.
And I mean, and do you have anything else you would like to add about your campaign, about your platform?
So probably the last issue that we talked about a little bit earlier is really the one around fair elections. So I have a background as an election reformer, and so I talk a lot about energy efficient affordable housing, 7-day library service, green jobs, and fair elections. And the reason for that is, as a third-party candidate, I feel it's so important that people recognize that most of these local issues, they're not partisan issues. You know, we've seen what party politics can do at the national level. We absolutely don't need that at the local level. At the local level, clean air, clean water, clean energy, it's not partisan. It's something that we all deserve and that we can all have if we work together. And what you need, though, then, is an expression of that with your voting system. So you need to remove barriers to participation. You need to allow legal residents who live here, work here, pay taxes here, you need to allow them to vote in local elections just like they used to. We need to stop wasting $15 million on runoff elections where less than 250,000 people vote when we have a solution called instant runoff voting. I wrote an op-ed in the Daily News about it 4 years ago. It's not a new idea. I've run dozens of campaigns on instant runoff voting and the single transferable vote where people can rank their candidates, you know, first choice, second choice, third choice, so that you can have one election, not two. And these are really basic ideas, but what's happened is there hasn't been the political will to push them forward. And from my perspective, it's because the people who are in office, they have absolutely no incentive to change the rules. They know how to play the game. They know how to work the system so they can get what they want. And so that's why I think it's so important that voters have these other choices, no matter what party they're in. And that's why I think it's great when the local newspapers are willing to host debates, interview candidates, and help voters know that they really do have choices on the ballot.
And they have more than just one or two choices.
Right, exactly. I think a lot of people assume in New York City that once the primary is over, it's a done deal. But that's not the case, certainly not in District 22. And I did just briefly mention the idea of green jobs, and part of this is that I personally, when the Hallett's Point development first came up years ago, it's sited on what was zoned M1, light manufacturing, light industrial land. And my preference would have been that rather than building luxury waterfront condos that most of us can't afford to move into, that perhaps we look into bringing green manufacturing jobs into the area. Because the kind of jobs that the proposed development will bring in are retail jobs. They're low-paying retail jobs, absolutely no opportunities for advancement, and probably no benefits. Whereas manufacturing jobs generally tend to pay more. There's entry positions at different levels, no matter what your level of education. There's always opportunities for advancement. It's like if we're going to talk about putting solar panels on a roof, and it's something I want to see, let's build the solar panels here.
Right in our backyard.
You know, right in our backyard. You know, the city has done great things with the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and that's city-owned land, so it's definitely different. But I really was hoping that we would not continue to give away our industrial land to private developers to make a fortune on. So I really want to see the city make a strong, concentrated effort towards developing green tech and green manufacturing jobs.